Here's a map of ancient Egypt. I've inserted two sticks or obelisks, one up here in Alexandria and one down here in Syene. Now, if at a certain moment each stick casts no shadow at all, that's perfectly easy to understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Syene is at a certain length, and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked, that at the same instant there was no shadow at Syene and a very substantial shadow at Alexandria? The only answer was that the surface of the Earth is curved. Not only that, but the greater the curvature, the bigger the difference in the lengths of the shadows. The sun is so far away that its rays are parallel when they reach the Earth. Sticks at different angles to the sun's rays will cast shadows at different lengths. For the observed difference in the shadow lengths, the distance between Alexandria and Syene had to be about 7 degrees along the surface of the Earth. By that I mean, if you imagine these sticks extending all the way down to the center of the Earth, they would there intersect at an angle of about 7 degrees. Well, 7 degrees is something like a 50th of the full circumference of the Earth, 360 degrees. Eratosthenes knew the distance between Alexandria and Syene. He knew it was 800 kilometers. Why? Because he hired a man to pace out the entire distance so that he could perform the calculation I'm talking about. Now, 800 kilometers times 50 is 40,000 kilometers. So that must be the circumference of the Earth. That's how far it is to go once around the Earth. That's the right answer. Eratosthenes' only tools were sticks, eyes, feet, and brains, plus a zest for experiment.
Hello everyone. So in this video I will be talking about the experiment of Eratosthenes and the flawed conclusion that he reached. I used as a reference for this experiment the previous video, which is a narration by Carl Sagan. You can also find information on Eratosthenes' experiment for the curvature of Earth on other sites as well, such as Wikipedia. So Eratosthenes measured the lengths of the shadows cast on the Earth by two equally tall objects at the same moment of the day, but at locations far one from another. The lengths of the shadows were not equal. That was the conclusion of his experiment. So Eratosthenes used the result of his experiment to reach the conclusion that the Earth has a spherical shape without any doubt. If you think about his entire argument, it can be broken down into the following premises. The shadows mentioned earlier, the shadows of the two objects, had different lengths. And the sun is a lot bigger than the Earth, therefore the light rays which hit the Earth are all parallel to each other. Okay, we have these two premises. Therefore, it is clear that the only case which satisfies the two premises is the fact that the Earth is spherical. So we have no doubt that if the two premises are true, then the only conclusion which logically follows as true is the spherical shape of the Earth, which means the existence of the Earth's curvature. So now we investigate these two premises. We can clearly observe that the first premise is true because it is the result of his experiment, an experiment which can be repeated and validated to be as he claimed it to be. Okay, the only question which remains would be, is the second premise true beyond any doubt? Because if it would not be true, then his entire argument would be neutralized. If the Sun is not bigger than the Earth, then the light rays which hit the Earth would not be parallel to each other, and therefore produce the result of Eratosthenes' experiment on a flat Earth as well. Let's assume that the second premise of the previous argument is the opposite statement. So we can rewrite everything as it follows. Premise number 1. The shadows mentioned earlier had different lengths. This is the same as before, the result of his experiment, the conclusion of his experiment. The second premise, the Sun is smaller than the Earth, therefore the light rays which hit the Earth are not parallel to each other. Therefore, it is clear that the only case which satisfies the two premises is the fact that the Sun is smaller than the Earth and that the Earth is either flat or spherical. We will illustrate the possible cases and their corresponding conclusions with the help of some simple drawings in the next section. So we have four possible cases. The first case, the Sun is bigger than the Earth and the Earth is flat. So if the Sun would be perfectly above the flat Earth, covering it completely, then no shadows would be produced in the case of box-shaped objects from the surface of the Earth. If the Sun would not be perfectly above the flat Earth, but rather to its side, to one of its margins, farther away from it, then the shadows produced in the case of box-shaped objects from the surface of the Earth would have the same length and would have the same direction, would be parallel to each other. And we show this in this drawing. So the above part is the Sun, which is way larger than the Earth. All the light rays come parallel to each other from the Sun, the light rays which hit the Earth. So the shadows which are produced from the two objects which sit on the flat Earth would be having the same length and the same direction, orientation. These shadows can be non-existent if the Sun would be perfectly above the flat Earth. Okay, the second case. The Sun is bigger than the Earth and the Earth is spherical. So in this case we have the same Sun, which is larger than the Earth, a spherical Earth. The Sun's rays come parallel to each other, hitting the Earth. So we can observe that the shadows of the objects which are further away from the closest point to the Sun will have different directions and different lengths, bigger lengths than the object which sits on the point closest to the Sun. Okay, so this is obvious, I hope. The third case, the Sun is smaller than the Earth and the Earth is flat. In this case, just like in the previous case, in the second case, we can see that the exact results are produced as observed by Eratosthenes after performing his experiment. So here we have a smaller Sun whose rays of light do not come parallel to each other before hitting the Earth. They come now at different angles, like they would come from a small spotlight. So the effect produced would be the object which is closest to the light source would have the shortest shadow, and the objects which are further away from it would have longer shadows and different directions. The object from the left would have a different would have a shadow of a different direction than the object on the right, or from the object that it's on the middle, that's in the middle. So the fourth case, when the Sun is smaller than the Earth and the Earth is spherical. This case produces the exact results as observed by Eratosthenes after performing his experiment. So we can see the same small Sun here, with the spherical Earth, which is bigger than the Sun, and the result is the same as in the case of a flat Earth with a smaller Sun. The only difference would be in the length of the shadows of objects placed on its surface when you compare the spherical Earth with the flat Earth. The length of shadows could be slightly different, because the curvature would alter this length. Okay, so the conclusion of our analysis is that the cases 2, 3 and 4 would produce the same result as the experiment of Eratosthenes, with slight variations when it comes to the exact length and direction of the shadows. Case 1 is the only case which would not produce shadows of different lengths. Therefore, if the Sun is smaller than the Earth, which means that the light rays which hit the Earth are not parallel to each other, then the Earth can be flat. Otherwise, if the Sun is bigger than the Earth, which means that the light rays which hit the Earth are parallel to each other, then the Earth can't be flat. So after this conclusion, the only question remaining would be, is the Sun bigger or smaller than the Earth, and how can you prove it? Because if it can be proved that the Sun is bigger than the Earth, as it is believed in mainstream cosmology, then the Earth being flat or spherical would be equally possible. And to conclude, in my opinion, the Earth is not proved to be a sphere, because the Sun is not proved to be bigger than the Earth. Only by proving the Sun to be bigger than the Earth, then you can conclude that due to Eratosthenes' experiment, which can be repeated, the Earth cannot be anything else but a sphere. So if the Sun would be bigger than the Earth could not be flat because of Eratosthenes' experiment. But I repeat, the Sun was not proved to be bigger than the Earth. So thanks for watching.